this is part two of our tutorial on how to web engineer a SaaS agentic app that runs with its own agent, its own UX, or inside ChatGPT, Claude, or any other leading AI host, modern AI host. So in part one, we created the MCP app widget, a standalone MCP server that supports the MCP app extension, the HTML widget that contains a React component. We deployed it on Vercel. We tested it from inside ChatGPT. So now we will be working on creating the backend MCP server. And in part three, we will combine two and wrap it with SaaS business operations layer. And in part four, we'll go to real production with it. We will secure it. We will make sure that we have the CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment process in place, the testing with each push into GitHub. And when it goes into production, on PR merge, you will know. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, you will know. I will tell you in detail about it in part four. So there will be more extensive integration end-to-end tests when you're pushing into production. Part two is simpler than part one because there is no widget, there's no MCP app SDK involved. It's all standard MCP SDK, so we will need only that SDK, and we'll be using Node. I recommend using ngrok so that you can access from your local server from, say, inside ChatGPT, but we will not actually be doing it. To save time, we will be deploying into Vercel and then testing through Vercel. And a new thing here is the database. We'll be using a Neon PostgreSQL, and it has support for vector extensions for Postgres. But most importantly, it has the HTTP-based, what's called REST API, Representative State Transfer API, to access the database, because we're using Vercel, which is a serverless functions hosting. It does not allow you to run long-running connections. So you cannot just, like you're running Node on the backend, you can have open the connection or connection pool to Postgres, and you manage that pool, and it runs, for hours. Here, it's short-lived. Each function call, each backend API call, it just opens up and then closes. Everything has to be destroyed. Well, I'm simplifying a bit, but that's the gist of it. So we need something that allows us to connect to the database, do our thing, and come back. That's what REST protocol is all about. If you're using other long-running sessions, like you're using Redis, for example, for caching, there are also tools for that, like Upstash, for example. Redis does exactly the same for Redis. It allows you to manage everything on the cloud, the connection pool, and just connect to it through APIs, REST APIs. Anyway, Neon is free. Just create an account there, free for limited, obviously, development purposes. And what we're doing is covered by that. It's just a few calls. And that's it. I actually created the database before starting this, but I will show you how to create one. We will also, so we're going to part two prompts. There is common, like we had in part one, and chatbot specific prompts. And common prompts start with setup Neon database. So that's what I will show to you. I have this, so you have to create the account, and then you go and you just do new project. You just specify the name of the project. You select the region. I'm running everything in Oregon, so that my Vercel Oregon based. It's all running inside AWS anyway, so we are hosting inside the same regional basically infrastructure in Oregon, so that the functions, the APIs are sitting close to the database. And then, so you select whatever you want, and or you can even switch between AWS and Azure if for some reason you're running the APIs in Azure instead of AWS. but Vercel right now is running everything inside AWS. That's what you should do. So I already did it. There's this project called Chatwall Tutorial, and it shows here the connection string. Don't worry, it has asterisks instead of the password. So we will use that to connect to the database. So we will actually um, uh, copy that and tell. No, let's start by telling it what it needs to do. We are um, doing the part 2 of the chat wall tutorial. Review this common file. Where is it? Common, right? Review files. Hold on, what's going on? Here it is, common. Review common. Is that the correct common? Yes. And chat word prompt. We will start with prompt 1 in common, just so that there is no confusion. Sometimes that happens. Planning only. And I will switch the agent into the planning mode. I've just created a new on PostgreSQL. I just created a neon PostgreSQL. What's next? So I need, first of all, to create the extension for vector inside the database. So we can go to SQL editor and run this provided extension. Well, it was already created, so it says already exists. Fine. Um, confirm successful, whatever. Okay. Um, created the extension. So it says save your pull neon connection string somewhere. Use it. Well, we will get it when we need it. So let's. It says that it's already completed, but let's officially finish it. It already moving on to prompt 2 and prompt 3 without. Um, okay, so decided to move. I'll go with the flow. I will not make an issue out of this. I'm not here to teach um, the AI how to behave. So it's moving to initializing Next.js node. What's Next.js? It is basically the hosting framework for virtual applications. Very convenient instead of just because if we were to use something familiar maybe to you like Express.js for HTTP server, it assumes it will be a long running HTTP server. But these are the serverless functions. Ultimately, they're implemented using Lambda AWS. You can look it up. So we Next.js framework is actually very good at providing those serverless functions like API, MCP tools functions, and it has great routing, file-based routing, and it can run as a standalone with Node locally in dev in test, or as a serverless host um, in, inside Vercel. So right now it's initializing just Node next project with Drizzle. What's Drizzle? Drizzle is what's called an ORM. It's an object relationship manager, something like that. It's a logical layer between the database. Like instead of writing raw queries, it provides you the mechanism. It has some great features. So it's convenience layer, but also it has the migration support so that the schema in the database is defined as a file, schema.ts, that AI can easily change and then run the migration, and the database is updated. So you can also migrate the data already in production while doing the migration, but even before the production, it's very convenient. Right now, it's creating those migrations um, so that you can uh, take the fresh database, like for testing, and then run all the migrations, and you get the database schema in the state, uh, in the final state, the same state as, say, production. Uh, some other great features, obviously typing, so that the results of the query, SQL is not typed by itself, but Drizzle will provide TypeScript types to make sure that if things are not correctly put together, it breaks during the compilation time and not during production time with your customer. I think it's also, so it's going through two prompts, right now, 2 and 3. So right now it's running Next.js production build to verify compile. Um, it, 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 it's running. It configuring next to use the TurboPack, which is the packager that bundles things together when sending them to the browser. So now it's configuring Drizzle, and it's configuring like the health function that you can check in production, the health of the database. So let's see. Run the build. Everything looks good, right? That's a good result. It actually, let's see. It should create a chat wall part 2. And yes, it has the app, DB, lib. Yeah, it went through 2 and 3. So it is basically going through the um, generic setup described in this file and making everything ready. So it says we need to create out of this file, env.example, we should create a real .env file. So we will save it as just .env. Env example is just a description. It doesn't contain the real password, as you can see here. But I will replace this with a real connection string coming from the database. I will pause the video recording. I don't want to expose it. And then I will close this file so you don't see it. Okay, so I've set up .env file, and it has DB connection string, and we are at about 15-minute mark for this video. So next is this is ridiculous. I don't know what I'm looking at. Let's go to prompts. We're still in common area, so let's do prompt 4. Prompt 4 now, planning only. So prompt 4 is actually setting up the MCP API, MCP HTTP streaming server. It will use HTTP streaming transport, unlike OpenAI examples that use the obsolete SSE server something events, not server side, uh, streaming. But anyway, SSE is designed to communicate between the browser and the server, or between the server and the browser, the other way around, using long-lived connections. And that's a problem when you have server-to-server communications. And each time the server can be a completely brand new function, Lambda in AWS terms, uh, that becomes a nightmare because you need to start a new connection. But HTTP streaming was developed for that purpose, so that it supports HTTP streaming server to server, and that's what we tell it to do using JSON RPC format, 2.0 format. Tells you to use just plain JSON instead of some fancy stuff that doesn't work. AI could be a little bit out of date, although since those prompts were developed in November, December of 25, when I was recording this video series for the first time for ChatGPT applications instead of, and later they were superseded by MCP apps. So now I'm re-recording it. But since then, AI, November 25, and now end of March 26, it's like 2 generations of AI development. Totally different. So it says implement prompt 4, replace MCP stuff with real MCP server using the SDK, session routing using the ID, set up course, wire get. I want to ask it, please provide some reassuring, smoky, testy get handler for MCP. I don't want it to give just an error when you're trying to connect to this endpoint through the browser. I want it to explain what is it doing, so that a year later I will have no idea what I just did here, and I will see this endpoint and I will try it, and it'll tell me not implemented. But it will tell me this is part of the blah blah blah, and I will know what's going on. The same thing actually, it also generated some actual pages for this app, although this is strictly MCP server. So it created those generated by create next app, generic stuff. So I will ask it to actually replace it with something meaningful for us, documenting what we're doing. So again, you go to this endpoint 5 years from now, and it'll tell you what this is part of the tutorial, part 2, instead of saying this is just the default landing page. What's next? So there is also prompt 5, set up generic test framework. We're using Jest, just like we did in part 1, for testing. And it will mock the database calls so that, no, actually, it'll be using the local. I instructed it to use the local Postgres running inside Docker container. If any of those words are unfamiliar, look it up with ChatGPT, explore it. It's if you don't get into really detail, it's all easy to understand what those are. So for testing, it'll have its own fresh instance of its local database that it will run all the migrations, configure the schema, configure the test data if necessary, run the test, and then destroy everything. Because we'll be running those tests, what's called in CI, continuous integration, in part 3. In part 4, we will set it up inside GitHub, not inside on our local server, but in a completely isolated container or set of containers. So every time you push something into GitHub, it will run through those tests to verify that you didn't break anything. It's called regression testing. So you see here, next, it started a server probably. That's why we're looking at this um, page all of a sudden alive. And now it will kill the server. Yeah, pkill will allow it. I mean, for the future. So it says all done. So I will ask it, please update the homepage to be specific to part 2 um, of the chat vault tutorial explaining the intent, because this is useless. Next, JS to get started. That's why I also hate when README stays unchanged from the original project that we started from, clone project. So for the same reason, we want to update README, we want to update homepage. Now it's running it. So it's running the build. That's how it looks like, npm run build. And then it's starting the server. Oh, and it's, by the way, it's continuing what we asked it to do in part 1, to automatically commit and push after each prompt. It's continuing doing it, which is fine. Replaced. So if we do this, what is it? Chat, well, tutorial, chat, a chat vault. No, part 2. Can you rename chat vault part 2 to chat vault part 2 for consistency with part 1? I mean, come on. I probably had it somewhere in the prompts, but we need it uniform. Otherwise, it would be what we call technical debt. So now we have part 1, part 2. It will result in a huge commit. I wanted to do part 2 in a separate branch so that we can easily go back to a fresh state. But I forgot. It happens. So now it committed again. So now we have the CD chat, and now select part 2, npm dev to start the server on port 3000. You never know. So here it's on port 310. Let's run it on port 3000. And let's see what we see here. This is the local browser. And that's what I was talking about. It created the landing page that explains what's going on, how easy it is. Okay, so now we can deploy to Vercel. We are using same D in dev and Vercel prod, so no migrations. It says that we'll need run migrations. Okay, so we are proceeding to Vercel. We will add new project. we will use our repository because they can, and we will select that chat vault repo, and we will pick up the root directory correctly from part 2, and let's call it something better than this, p2, and we will need to set up the environment variable, which I will do again. I will pause the recording and we'll enter it, the connection string, and then we'll click on deploy. Okay, I entered the database URL. We selected the root. We selected the repo, and we gave it a name, and we're deploying. And it correctly detected that it's a Next.js project. The previous one was using white modeler, and server. We're good so far, so good. Okay, so let's go to dashboard. Let's actually look at the deployments. So we have a deployment here. It has its own domain. So let's see what happens when I go here. We see this homepage that was created for us. And if we go to the MCP server, we should see this feel good, like I asked it, um, smoky checky. Um, um, we can actually do the real health check here. Health equals 1. That's what it tells us, right? And it says, okay, true. It actually works. So we are done with common part. We're at about 25 minutes into the video, 27 minutes. Let's go to the next thing, which is to see what's wrong. A chatbot part 2. Okay, this guy. So chatbot prompts, specific prompts. Moving on, prompt 6 in chatbot prompts, planning only. Meanwhile, we will take a look at what is the problem, why this chatbot tutorial is in red, and it's complaining about tsconfig. So we will ask that's TypeScript configuration file. So we will ask the agent to look at that. Meanwhile, let's take a look at this file. No, not this. What I'm asking you to do, prompt 6, implement safe chat tool. So we're beginning now to implement actual tools inside MCP server. So we had a generic MCP placeholder server. Now we're implementing safe chat. And it will use now embeddings. So that's another thing you need for this tutorial. If you don't have already, you need to create an account on OpenAI, development account. And it'll give you the OpenAI API key, and you'll need it to save in our .env file and in Vercel environment variables, so that it can do when we're saving the chat, we are producing the vector embeddings, and then we can search them on search. Okay, built. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. I will go grab my OpenAI API key and put it in .env file while I pause the video. So this is what I did. I copied OpenAI API key to .env file and also to our Vercel environmental variables. So now there is OpenAI API key and there is database URL. Now it invites me to redeploy. So while it's still running, because it's waiting to run the migrate database command, which we can spy on, complete it, commit and push. Um, um, so it did what it did it do. It implemented um, save chat, right? It implemented save chat. Let's move on. Prompt 7. Prompt 7. Planning only. Now implement load chats. In part 1, we put like hard-coded load chats, load my chats. Actually, it should be load my chats. Huh. This is incorrect. This is incorrect prompt. I will fix it. It should be load my chats. I explained the reason before. But the widget expects these functions to be named load my chats and search my chats, and I think it's still save chat. It should be load my chats, not load chats. I explained in part 1 that that's caused by otherwise ChatGPT guardrails would kick in and say, oh, no, you cannot load all the chats in the world. So I renamed the function to load my chats, and it started, oh, you want to load your chats. So it is pretty silly. Anyway, we have the plan. Let's execute it for load my chats, right? Load my chats. It's straightforward, goes to the database and it loads the chats. Provides the query pagination logic at like 10 at a time. We are at about 35 minutes into the video. Okay, did it. So um, commit and push. Forgot to commit and push. So whenever it commits and pushes, it will trigger the build inside Vercel. And I already have this redeploy pending. So anyway, so we're gonna go here and look at deployments. So there are 2 queued, we don't need 2. 1 is just fine. So let's cancel this guy. And we are deploying as a result of the push. 24 seconds. That's very fast for a full Next.js build. Oh, it's done. Okay, so we can still do the health check. We can still do the straight MCP call. And we will test it all together. So let's move forward for the sake of speed. What's next? Let's save chat, load my chats. Prompt 8, planning only. It basically now does search my chats using vector search. Load my chats. Search my chats. Search my chats. Load my chats. Let's copy the modified thing into the original prompt file. Ooh. And the next one is what? Prompt 9. Add tests. This building. So the last, no, it's not the last one. So the next one is prompt 9 is about testing. So did it commit it and push? Commit and push. All of a sudden it forgot the rule. Okay, so it's included, it's committed, so it's building on resell. Let's move forward. Tests. Prompt 9, planning only. Plan. We're at about 41 minutes into the video, 42. It says no. This is strange. It says has no uh, test runner, but prompt 5 was supposed to set everything up. No? Mango Markdown. Okay. Has has prompt 5 been executed already or no? Instead of giving me a straight answer, it starts saying, oh, no, no, prompt 5 should have done that. No, but it wasn't implemented. Okay, do prompt 5, then prompt 9, or combined. So it says basically, I forgot to run prompt 5, right? Meanwhile, while it's doing it, we will test its honesty. Okay, so part 2, save chat, and it is right. After prompt 4, I jumped into the second half and got distracted with the homepage changes, but the last thing was prompt 4. There was no prompt 5. So I owe it an apology for thinking that it is lying to me. It used to lie by default all the time, a year ago. And recently it's much better. It's actually much, much, much better. So sometimes I still think it's lying to me, but it's not the first time. After checking, it turns out that I just forgot something. Forgot to switch to agentic mode, agent mode. So now it has problems writing stuff. We're still in planning mode, and yet it is implementing. So it created the main test, and I'm going to ask it if the E2E tests are using the actual embeddings API and wasting my tokens, or if it's possible to mock the embeddings for now and only use them when we set up when we merge into production tests. What? Start Docker Postgres and for E2E test run. We're about 47 minutes into the video time. Okay, test 8 passed out of 8. Pretty good. I mean, what else can you ask for? So it is implementing. I see what I wanted to ask it about, whether it's using Open AI key, and it says if it's set up, it will use it. If it's not set up, it won't. So for the production merges, the tests that will run then on what's called pull requests for merges, we will be setting up the OpenAI key so that it will actually go to OpenAI and do the whole embedding end-to-end testing. But for normal pushes into GitHub, which you can do, 200 per day, we will save our OpenAI credits. Just a question: are you running DB migration as part of the test DB setup for each test run? Partly migration not run before each test case. No, I didn't say about for each test case, right? I said for each test run in before all. Yes. Okay. So we're almost done here then. Let's go to the last remaining, which is testing it in ChatGPT. So commit and push, and then prompt 10. So prompt 10, start the backend server, set up a tunnel, but we will be doing it actually through the um, through Vercel. So right now it pushed everything. If we go to Vercel here, right, we'll see that there is a new deployment being built. We don't have any API key for this MCP server. It's wide open to the world for now. We'll secure it in part 4 of our tutorial. I don't know why it needs 2 builds. Runbook, integration runbook. So it committed twice, so there'll be 2 builds. Doesn't really matter. We can go into this deployment, previous one, because this is the API, right? The URI, MCP, right? Okay, so how about we go to ChatGPT now, and we need to set it into the developer mode, settings, apps, advanced settings, developer mode, and since we recorded part 1, they added one more thing to enforce CSP in developer mode. Just interesting that they're moving very quickly, changing everything, and yet our original ChatGPT it's been still sitting in review status for over 2 months. So now we can actually, no, we need to connect to create this app, right? So create the app, MCP Part2, and this is the URL, right? No authentication, nothing. Let's see. It's now connecting to we're self-hosted. That's our, right? So let's look at what it actually did. Which one I just did? Because there are two of those. This guy. Is this the URL? Chat vault -p2? Yeah. Okay. So it has load my chats, save chat, and search my chats. Everything looks pretty cool. Save chat is open world destructive, open world destructive. Search my chats is not destructive. Um, so let's copy this and let's tell AI. This is how the tools look to chat GPT. Can we clean up the um, annotations, I think they're called, the open to the world, the destructive thing. I'm being very precise in my rigorous engineering language. Because if when submitting to ChatGPT ultimately, it will not like it that it's open to the world, that it's destructive. I mean, if you're searching, how is it destructive? We did it, I think, for the widget correctly. Actually, we need to check. We went through that part quickly, but and we can check right there because I still have the widget. Oh, so we go here to the app. That was what? No, that was Chatwall demo, right? Yeah, connected a week ago. That was part one. So browse my saved chats. Open world destructive. Yeah, it has the same problem with part one. We'll need to clean this up. Um, can you clean this up in part one as well? While we're at it, and if we didn't have AI, I bet you this would have become what we call the tech debt. I would say, okay, well, when I'm putting it all together, I will fix that. For now, let's finish. But with AI, you might as well tell it, you know what? Fix everything up right now. It's only 30 seconds. Um, commit and push. So it will now rebuild both part two and part one. But meanwhile, we can continue connect MCP part two. I think it's this guy, and say, I don't know, load my chats. And it's calling the chat list from the tool, and it's probably empty. It should be empty. Yeah. 0 chats on page one. But we can go now to that deployment and look at the log. Oh, it's actually we need to go to the latest deployment, not at this way. So, no, it was this when we were running. And see that it's actually called load my chest. You see here? And that when it returned an empty page. Page 1, limit 10, return 0, total 0, half a second. So we are actually at a point where I can say that we are done. Well, I just did light smoke testing with load, search, I bet you the same behavior. We're running tests when we're pushing manually for now. And we even fixed part 1, so it's probably rebuilding part 1 as well. Deployments. And it was pushed 2 minutes ago. Yeah, because we updated, fixed two annotations. So we did it all. This is part 1. Part 2, we are exactly at 1 hour mark. And thank you for watching. And next time we will be talking about putting part 1 and part 2 together in a single, what I call upstream MCP server, and wrapping it with SaaS business operations layer. That will be very cool, actually. See you then. Thank you.
Through endless pines the cold winds weave, where silver streams and tall birch breathe. The bison roam, the eagle soar, the twilight drums in war once roared. The waters whispered soft and wide, a guiding hand the spirits tied. No border drawn, no strangers claim, the land and sky both spoke the same. Minnesota, northern star, quiet water, that's what you are. Winter swishing on ice and snow, summer's fishing nice and slow.